God bless America. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this Christmas Day. I hope to not take up too much of your valuable holiday time, but I do thank you for joining me in this video. The thing that I want to talk about today is inspired by a tweet from Mr. Chris Hayes. So let me just show you what he sent out. This was on December 22nd. When it held, I'm sorry, I just had a, what's the word that I'm looking for? I had to stop and cringe at that English. When healthcare.gov flopped its first year, it was taken as a lesson about government's ability to get things done. A more accurate statement would say it was taken as a lesson of the lack of government's ability to get things done. So it's worth nothing. Now I know that I'm at least moderately dyslexic, because I promise, the first time I read this, I didn't see it in the first line, and I read when healthcare.gov flopped its first year. And in the second sentence I read, so it's worth noting. I promise, I did not see that he said it's worth nothing. How incredibly... This is genuine. Oh my gosh, I'm actually reacting in the moment to how this guy tweeted. You're usually getting like my second-hand reaction to something, because I like to at least read what I'm going to be talking about before I go and talk about it. I also like to think about what I'm going to say before I say it. So sometimes you're even getting my third-hand reaction to something. But this is like genuinely my first reaction to this man's tweet, because I read it so wrong the first time. This is incredible. This is... Oh my gosh. It's incredible how much more honest a typo can be than what the guy actually meant. Because you know he meant to say it's worth noting how incredibly reliable it's become over the last 4 years, but instead, nothing ended up in the tweet. Basically, zero downtime, no waiting rooms, etc. It can be done. Okay, this is what I really want to talk about. Not the tweet. I don't want to talk about healthcare.gov, per se. I want to talk about this concept. Government dysfunction does not exist. Government dysfunction does not exist. In other words, the government does not mess up. The government does not get things wrong. The government is incapable of wrongdoing. This is not my point of view. This is from the left. This is from Mr. Chris Hayes. Mr. Chris Hayes sees a organization, just take the government out of it. Pretend that he's not talking about the government or healthcare.gov. Pretend that we're talking about Organization X, and they want to build a website. They want to build a website that you can log into. And Organization X spent $1.7 billion with a B, as in billion dollars, to build this website. And it didn't work on launch. It did not work on launch. 4 years later, the website works like it should have on launch. 4 years, and who knows how many more billions of dollars later. And Chris Hayes thinks this is an example of Organization X being good at making a website. where you're supposed to be able to log in. This is why I say government dysfunction does not exist. As pointed out by a man who I have no idea, Ben Shapiro. I know exactly who this is. It took them 4 years to build a functioning website. And as Katie Pavlich, I genuinely don't know who Katie Pavlich is, and billions of dollars, $1.7 billion. When it comes to government, the government is the answer to the left. Nothing happens unless the government makes it happen. You didn't build that. You remember when President Obama said that? You didn't build that. Literally nothing happens unless the government makes it happen in the mind of the left. And this is why government dysfunction doesn't exist. Because if the government doesn't make it happen, it doesn't happen. So if something happens, obviously the government made it happen. It doesn't matter if it took 4 years and $1.7 billion for a website. There's a company that I've been seeing a lot of ads for on YouTube. They're called Wix. They specialize in helping you build your website. From what I understand, you build your website in minutes. For pocket change. It shouldn't cost $1.7 billion and take 4 years to make a website. The most complicated thing about healthcare.gov is you have to log in. You have to make an account to log in and buy your healthcare. I'm assuming, because I haven't used it. $1.7 billion in 4 years. And 4 years, not in 4 years. $1.7 billion to get the thing running after Obamacare was passed. So that was in less than a year. $1.7 billion, less than a year. 3 years later, and an untold number of billions of dollars. And it works like it was supposed to work on launch day. Normal people read healthcare.gov works 4 years later, and they're shocked. It doesn't take 4 years to build a website. The left reads, in 4 years, healthcare.gov is working just like it should be. Like that's a good thing. The post office. Post office is another example. You go into the post office and you have to stand in line to pay for basic packaging products. Because everybody has to stand in the same line to get their business taken care of. You have to stand in the same... You buying a box, has to stand in the same line as the guy that wants to buy stamps. The guy that wants to buy stamps has to stand in the same line as the guy that's trying to pick up a package because the post office was delivering it to his house in such a way that they couldn't deliver it. And I want to say there's a rule where the post office isn't allowed to leave boxes in a place where it can't be secured, because they never leave those boxes in a place that anybody could get to it, like FedEx or UPS does sometimes. And I've shopped at both FedEx and UPS. FedEx and UPS not only have better selections for packaging and shipping products than the United States Postal Service does, you can get out of there faster. Yeah, they might be a little bit more expensive. And that's where the saying comes in, time is money. Yeah, you might spend a little bit less money at the post office, but the post office is not a well-oiled machine. UPS and FedEx, much better examples of well-functioning postal services. But dysfunction does not exist in the government. Because the left believes nothing happens. Literally nothing happens unless the government makes it happen. It's why after Hurricane Harvey, everyone on the East Coast had their minds blown out of their heads and splattered against the wall by the fact that people flocked in droves, driving across country, thousands of miles. People, private citizens, to help the recovery effort in Texas. It's why they can't compute when Americans help each other. It's why they want to take your right to own firearms away. Because you can't protect yourself. Only the government can protect you. And even if you did protect yourself, it's only because the government let you protect yourself. It's only because the government allowed you to buy that firearm, allowed you to have that firearm, gave you the permit to carry that firearm. Nothing happens unless the government makes it happen. The government doesn't even allow things to happen, they make it happen. It's why you didn't build that. It's why if I have a measly 10 subscribers right now, but if I were to build that into an audience of tens of thousands, even hundreds, I would be pleased with hundreds of subscribers. I would be tickled to death with 50. If I'm able to build an audience, I didn't build that. The government built that. Because the government invented the internet. And because the government invented the internet, people invented YouTube. They didn't build YouTube either. The government built YouTube because they built the internet. See? I didn't build my audience. YouTube built my audience. And because the people that built YouTube didn't build YouTube, the government built my audience. It has nothing to do with me. This is the government. Government dysfunction does not exist because literally nothing happens unless the government makes it happen. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Get back to your Christmas, your families, your holiday festivities. I hope that it has been a fantastic weekend and a very Merry Christmas for each and every one of you. But thank you for taking the time out of your holiday celebrations to join me in this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Maybe hit subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications because you won't want to miss a single video. I'll still be on break. This video is coming to you from the past, and I'll still be on break tomorrow. But Wednesday we'll be hitting the news hard. We'll be hitting the ground running. There'll be a lot to talk about. I know there will be, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time, good night, Merry Christmas, and God bless.